It's 9 p.m. dinner time. A grandfather quietly nods off during his granddaughter's recital. A grandmother repeats the same story for the third time that evening. Across the street, another elderly man insists his neighbors are stealing from him. To outsiders, these moments might seem humorous or peculiar, just part of getting old. But behind each one lies a neurological truth few are willing to talk about. According to leading neuroscientists, by the age of 65, nearly 8 in 10 seniors will develop behavioral or cognitive changes that subtly signal brain decline. These aren't just personality shifts or mood swings. They often reflect degeneration in specific brain regions, such as the frontal and temporal lobes, which regulate judgment, impulse control, memory, and emotion. Yet families often dismiss these changes as normal aging, missing critical early warning signs of cognitive disorders like mild cognitive impairment, MCI, or even early dementia. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on 12 unsettling behaviors that often appear as people age. The ones no one talks about, but everyone should understand. Some will make you laugh. Others might make you uncomfortable. But when we reach number 5, you'll realize that what seems like a harmless social quirk can actually be one of the clearest indicators that independence may be fading. Every claim mentioned here is backed by current scientific evidence, with references linked below. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. How old are you, and what's the most surprising change you've noticed in yourself or a loved one after turning 60? Drop it in the comments. We read every story like a case study, real-life insights that are often more revealing than lab data itself. Now let's begin. Number 12. Becoming overly suspicious or paranoid. Perhaps one of the most painful transformations to witness is when an aging parent or grandparent begins to distrust the very people who care for them most. They might accuse family members of theft, insist the neighbors are spying, or believe strangers are plotting against them. What appears as paranoia is often a neurodegenerative symptom rooted in brain chemistry and structure. As neurons die in the frontal and temporal lobes, regions responsible for logic, reasoning, and reality testing, the brain's ability to separate perception from imagination falters. This is especially common in the early stages of Alzheimer's and Lewy body dementia, where neural circuits involving acetylcholine and dopamine become disrupted. A landmark study in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry found that 1 in 4 seniors with mild cognitive impairment experiences delusional or paranoid thinking. The brain's shrinking hippocampus can also distort memory formation, meaning when objects are misplaced, the person genuinely believes someone else must have taken them. On a biochemical level, decreased dopamine regulation in the prefrontal cortex can cause misinterpretation of normal stimuli. Shadows become threatening, voices sound menacing, and minor coincidences feel like targeted plots. Some medications, such as dopaminergic drugs used for Parkinson's or anticholinergics for bladder control, can worsen these effects by further disrupting neurotransmitter balance. Hearing and vision loss compound the confusion. When sensory input fades, the brain fills in the gaps with its own interpretations, sometimes benign, sometimes paranoid. Sleep deprivation and chronic stress can heighten these perceptions, activating the limbic system and reinforcing fear-based narratives. Emotionally, paranoia erodes trust and connection. Families often feel heartbroken when accused of betrayal by someone they love, while the senior becomes trapped in a world of uncertainty and fear. Rather than dismissing these fears, it's important to see them as biological warning signs. The brain struggling to interpret reality. Compassionate medical evaluation can uncover reversible causes, such as medication side effects, sleep disorders, or sensory deficits, and slow the cognitive decline driving the paranoia. Because when an aging mind begins to turn against its own world, what it truly needs isn't argument. It's understanding, reassurance, and care. Number 11. Talking loudly without realizing it. If you've ever noticed an older loved one suddenly speaking louder than usual, even in quiet rooms, this may not be just a habit. It's often the result of presbycusis, or age-related hearing loss. Inside the inner ear, thousands of tiny hair cells, called cochlear cilia, translate sound vibrations into electrical signals for the brain. As we age, these cells die and don't regenerate. The result? Sound becomes muffled, and seniors can't hear their own voice clearly, prompting them to speak louder without realizing it. A study in the Journal of the American Academy of Audiology found that nearly 2/3 of adults over 70 experience some degree of hearing loss, yet fewer than 20% use hearing aids. But this isn't just a social nuisance, it's a neurological red flag. When the brain strains to interpret unclear auditory input, it diverts energy away from other functions like memory formation and attention control. The Lancet Commission on Dementia Prevention reported that untreated hearing loss increases dementia risk by up to 30%, making it one of the most significant yet preventable causes of cognitive decline. So, when an elder raises their voice unconsciously, it's not rudeness, it's biology. The ear's sensory loss forces the brain to compensate, and over time, that extra workload can accelerate mental fatigue and emotional withdrawal. Number 10. Falling asleep in social settings. It's one of those moments that makes family members exchange uneasy glances. When an elderly loved one suddenly drifts off during a conversation, a family meal, or even at church. What looks like simple fatigue is often much more complex. Falling asleep in social settings is not just about being tired. It's a sign that the brain's internal clock, the circadian rhythm, is struggling to keep time. As we age, the pineal gland, responsible for releasing melatonin, the hormone that tells the body it's time to sleep, produces significantly less of it. Studies in the Journal of Biological Rhythms show that by the age of 70, melatonin levels can drop by up to 75%, leading to irregular sleep-wake cycles and difficulty staying alert during the day. In addition, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, a small group of cells in the hypothalamus that acts as the body's master clock, becomes less responsive to light cues with age. This means older adults don't get the same daytime wake-up signal from sunlight, causing circadian misalignment, a state where the body's sleep signals fire at the wrong time of day. Compounding this are other factors. Polypharmacy, or taking multiple medications, which can induce drowsiness. Sleep disorders like sleep apnea, which cause oxygen dips that fragment nighttime rest. Chronic inflammation and pain, which elevate fatigue-inducing cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha. A 2021 study in sleep medicine found that 32% of adults over 65 experience excessive daytime sleepiness, a condition strongly linked to cognitive decline. Researchers at Stanford even discovered that older adults who frequently nod off during the day are twice as likely to develop dementia within 5 years. That's because the glymphatic system, the brain's nighttime waste clearance pathway, functions best during deep sleep. When that process is disrupted, toxic proteins like beta-amyloid and tau accumulate, slowly impairing memory and cognition. Beyond the biology lies the emotional cost. Seniors who unintentionally fall asleep in public often feel embarrassed or misunderstood, as though they've lost control over even their wakefulness. Family members may mistake it for disinterest, not realizing it's a neurochemical cry for rest. So when an older adult dozes off mid-conversation, it's not simply fatigue. It's the body's way of revealing that sleep regulation, brain health, and circadian stability are all under strain. Addressing sleep quality may be one of the most powerful ways to protect both dignity and cognition. Number 9. Forgetting personal hygiene routines. One of the first and most distressing changes families notice is a decline in personal hygiene. Showers are skipped. Clothes go unchanged. Brushing teeth becomes infrequent. To family members, this can look like stubbornness or laziness, but science shows otherwise. These changes often stem from declining executive function in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's command center for organizing daily habits and self-care routines. Take Edith, 74. Once meticulous about her hair and clothing, she began wearing the same outfit for days, forgetting to brush her teeth at night. Her daughter initially thought it was fatigue, but doctors later identified early vascular cognitive impairment. This isn't just a cosmetic issue. Poor hygiene increases risks for skin infections, gum disease, and even aspiration pneumonia, because oral bacteria can migrate to the lungs. As sensory perception dulls with age, seniors may not feel uncomfortable in unwashed clothes or notice strong odors. Meanwhile, joint pain or arthritis can make bathing physically exhausting. A Harvard longitudinal study found that seniors who neglected hygiene were 3 times more likely to develop dementia within 5 years compared to those maintaining routine self-care. That's why noticing these changes early and responding compassionately can literally save lives. Behind every forgotten toothbrush or unwashed shirt may be a brain quietly signaling distress. Number 8. Hoarding old items and junk. It begins innocently: a stack of newspapers, an overflowing closet, a drawer full of outdated receipts. But for many seniors, hoarding becomes more than clutter. It's a coping mechanism for anxiety, memory loss, and fear of change. Neurologically, hoarding is linked to dysfunction in the anterior cingulate cortex and insula, regions involved in decision-making and emotional regulation. When these areas weaken, discarding possessions feels distressing, as if throwing away parts of one's identity. Lillian, 75, once tidy and organized, now defends her pile of plastic bags and old mail as too useful to waste. To her, each item carries memory and meaning. To her daughter, it's chaos. Beyond the emotional strain, hoarding creates physical hazards: increased fall risks, fire danger, and even respiratory threats from mold or dust exposure. It can also deepen isolation, as embarrassment or shame keeps seniors from inviting others into their home. Psychologists note that hoarding behavior often intensifies after major losses: the death of a spouse, retirement, or relocation. The clutter becomes a stand-in for comfort and control in an uncertain world. In short, the pile of papers isn't just clutter, it's an emotional archive. Recognizing that truth is the first step to helping seniors restore safety and dignity without judgment. Number 7. Repeating the same stories over and over. Every family has lived through this moment: a grandparent joyfully recounting the same story again and again, sometimes even within a single conversation. At first, it feels sweet, like revisiting a favorite memory. But over time, repetition reveals something deeper: a biological signal of how the aging brain processes memory. Scientifically, this pattern begins in the hippocampus, the brain's central hub for forming new memories and distinguishing past from present experiences. Studies using MRI scans show that by the age of 70, the hippocampus may shrink by 15 to 20%, reducing its capacity to encode new information while leaving older, long-term memories mostly intact. This is why seniors can recall the details of a childhood home with crystal clarity, but forget whether they've told you the same story minutes ago. A 2022 longitudinal study published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease revealed that seniors who frequently repeat stories are twice as likely to develop mild cognitive impairment, MCI, within 5 years. MCI often represents the transitional stage between normal aging and dementia, when short-term memory and attention begin to falter. But repetition isn't only neurological, it's emotional. Revisiting familiar stories stimulates the limbic system, particularly the amygdala and nucleus accumbens, which trigger positive emotions and a sense of self-continuity. In simple terms, retelling a memory reinforces identity and stability in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable. So, when older adults repeat stories, they're not only reflecting memory loss, they're also seeking comfort, connection, and validation. The story becomes an anchor between fading recall and enduring selfhood. Recognizing this pattern early allows families to distinguish between harmless nostalgia and emerging cognitive decline, often years before formal symptoms appear. Number 6. Eating with noisy chewing habits. Noisy chewing is one of those small but unsettling changes families notice during meals: exaggerated crunching, smacking sounds, or chewing with the mouth open. Many interpret it as a loss of manners, but biologically, it's a sign of age-related orofacial decline. As people age, sarcopenia, the progressive loss of skeletal muscle mass, affects not only the arms and legs but also the masseter, temporalis, and tongue muscles that control chewing. These muscles weaken, coordination decreases, and chewing movements become less efficient. In parallel, saliva production drops by up to 50% after age 60, especially in individuals taking antihypertensives, antidepressants, or diuretics, a condition known as xerostomia. With less lubrication, food doesn't break down easily, forcing seniors to chew more forcefully or with exaggerated jaw movements. Dental changes compound the problem. Tooth enamel thins, gums recede, and dentures often fit imperfectly, altering bite alignment. A 2023 study in the Journal of Oral Rehabilitation found that 43% of adults over 65 exhibit masticatory inefficiency, producing larger food particles during swallowing. This noisy chewing isn't harmless. It has physiological and nutritional consequences. Poor mastication increases the load on the stomach and intestines, leading to bloating, acid reflux, and nutrient malabsorption. Over time, many older adults avoid tougher foods like lean meats and raw vegetables, unintentionally sliding into protein and fiber deficiencies. Socially, embarrassment about noisy chewing can drive mealtime isolation, a major risk factor for depression and malnutrition in the elderly. So, that sound you hear at dinner isn't just a habit. It's the body signaling neuromuscular fatigue, dental deterioration, or even early frailty. Paying attention to it could help preserve both nutrition and dignity. Number 5. Ignoring strange body odors. Few topics make families more uncomfortable than this one. The subtle, musty scent that often clings to older adults. What most people don't know is that this phenomenon has a scientific name. 2-nonenal, often referred to as the odor of aging. Research published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology shows that starting around age 40, the skin's sebaceous glands begin to oxidize omega-7 fatty acids, such as palmitoleic acid. This oxidation produces 2-nonenal, a volatile compound responsible for the greasy, cardboard-like scent often associated with older age. Unlike sweat, this compound binds tightly to proteins in the skin and doesn't wash off easily, explaining why standard soap and water often fail to remove it. But the science goes deeper. The loss of smell perception, called presbyosmia, becomes pronounced after age 60 due to degeneration of the olfactory bulb and damage to olfactory receptor neurons. Seniors may literally be unable to detect their own body odor or environmental changes, like gas leaks or spoiled food. More importantly, unusual odors can serve as diagnostic biomarkers for disease. A sweet or musty scent can indicate liver disease, linked to elevated dimethyl sulfide levels. A fishy or ammonia-like smell may suggest kidney failure. Due to accumulated nitrogen waste, a fruity or acetone odor on the breath is a hallmark of diabetic ketoacidosis, a medical emergency. Ignoring these olfactory clues means missing early signs of metabolic dysfunction or organ decline. In one Japanese study, older adults with diminished smell perception were twice as likely to die within 5 years, highlighting how vital this sensory feedback is for overall health. Beyond the biology lies the emotional cost. Persistent odor often leads to social withdrawal, embarrassment, and stigma, particularly in care facilities. For an elderly person already battling loneliness, that invisible barrier can be devastating. Families should approach this delicately, not with shame, but with understanding. Because behind every unnoticed scent lies complex chemistry, changing metabolism, and sometimes a cry for help from within the body itself. Number 4. Oversharing private health details. It's perhaps the most surprising change, when aging loved ones start openly discussing personal health topics in public. From describing medical procedures at the dinner table to sharing bowel details in a grocery line, it can make family members cringe. Yet beneath what seems like a loss of manners lies a profound neurological and emotional transformation. The main culprit is the frontal lobe, particularly the prefrontal cortex, which governs self-awareness, judgment, and social filtering. As we age, this region shrinks in volume and loses synaptic density, weakening the brain's internal brake system that normally stops us from saying things out of context. This phenomenon is often called frontal disinhibition. Neuroimaging studies have shown that this kind of disinhibition appears even in healthy aging, though it becomes more pronounced in mild cognitive impairment or early dementia. The brain simply struggles to distinguish between private and public information. But oversharing isn't purely neurological, it's deeply emotional. Many seniors experience loneliness, invisibility, or a lack of meaningful conversation. Discussing personal health, even awkwardly, becomes a way of connecting, a signal that says, "I want to be seen and understood." A 2019 study in aging and mental health found that older adults who felt socially isolated were twice as likely to overshare personal details in casual interactions. Psychologists suggest this behavior is often a coping mechanism for loss of control. When the body becomes unpredictable, talking about it is a way to reclaim ownership over one's experience. However, oversharing can also reveal deeper issues, including mild cognitive decline, depression, or anxiety. In such cases, the individual may lose sensitivity to social norms, not out of defiance, but from neurological change. For families, embarrassment is natural, but shaming or silencing an elder can intensify feelings of rejection and isolation. Experts recommend gentle redirection, empathy, and privacy cues rather than harsh correction. Ultimately, oversharing is not just about the loss of social grace. It's about the human need to stay connected, even when the filters fade. It's a reminder that aging reshapes not only the body but the way we communicate, seek comfort, and express vulnerability. Number 3. Complaining constantly about minor issues. Everyone knows an elderly loved one who seems perpetually dissatisfied. The soup's too cold, the chair's too firm, the television's too loud. At first glance, it feels like nitpicking or stubbornness. But neuroscience paints a different picture. Constant complaining in seniors is often rooted in biochemical and emotional shifts within the aging brain. As the prefrontal cortex, the area that regulates emotions and filters irritation, begins to shrink with age, its ability to suppress minor frustrations weakens. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the brain's fear and stress center, becomes more reactive. This imbalance means that small inconveniences can trigger outsized emotional responses. Adding to this, aging disrupts levels of serotonin and dopamine, neurotransmitters that stabilize mood and promote well-being. When their activity declines, the brain becomes more sensitive to negative stimuli, a phenomenon psychologists call negativity bias amplification. A study in psychology and aging found that older adults were 37% more likely to interpret neutral situations as negative compared to younger adults. This helps explain why a slightly cold cup of coffee might provoke irritation or sadness instead of mild indifference. On a hormonal level, cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, lingers longer in older adults after minor triggers. Elevated cortisol suppresses endorphin release, deepens fatigue, and interferes with emotional regulation. But it's not all in the brain. Chronic pain, arthritis, hearing loss, and loneliness heighten irritability and make sensory experiences feel overwhelming. A sound that once went unnoticed, like a ticking clock, can suddenly become intolerable. Constant complaining also has a social price. Families may grow frustrated and withdraw emotionally, while the senior feels unheard or dismissed. Over time, this emotional disconnect can reinforce feelings of isolation and helplessness, fueling a cycle of further negativity. Rather than reacting with frustration, it's helpful to interpret persistent complaining as a signal that the brain is under stress, the body is uncomfortable, or emotional needs are going unmet. Because behind every complaint lies a nervous system struggling to restore balance. Number 2. Losing control of bodily sounds, gas, burps, and stomach noises. It's one of the most quietly humiliating parts of aging. Sudden burps during a conversation, stomach gurgles in a silent room, or gas escaping when least expected. Many seniors laugh it off to hide the embarrassment, but beneath that laughter lies a deeper story. These sounds are not a sign of poor manners. They're the body's way of revealing physiological changes in digestion, muscle tone, and gut bacteria that naturally come with age. As we get older, the gastrointestinal system slows down. The stomach produces less hydrochloric acid, and enzymes like pepsin and lipase decline, making it harder to break down proteins and fats efficiently. When digestion slows, food lingers longer in the intestines, allowing gut microbes to ferment it, releasing gases such as hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide. These gases expand in the gut and often escape as burps or flatulence. Meanwhile, the lower esophageal sphincter, the circular muscle that keeps stomach contents and air from rising up, weakens with age. This loss of tone allows gas to move upward, causing belching or reflux-like symptoms. Similarly, the anal sphincter and surrounding pelvic muscles gradually lose elasticity, reducing control over passing gas. A large study in digestive diseases and sciences found that 41% of adults over 65 experience frequent bloating, excessive gas, or belching that disrupts daily life. And for some, the underlying causes are more serious, including small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, impaired bile flow, or even early pancreatic insufficiency, which prevents proper fat digestion. But the psychological impact can be just as profound. Seniors like 70-year-old Frank, who once turned bright red when a sudden burp echoed through church, often begin avoiding social gatherings, meals, or travel. Over time, this withdrawal feeds loneliness, anxiety, and malnutrition. Modern research increasingly links these symptoms to changes in the gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria that regulate digestion, immunity, and even mood. Age, medications, and diet can shift this microbial balance, increasing gas-producing bacteria and decreasing beneficial strains like bifidobacteria. So, while uncontrolled bodily sounds may seem like a minor annoyance, they're really a window into gut aging, showing how digestive efficiency, muscle control, and microbial harmony decline over time. Addressing it means supporting gut health through fiber, hydration, probiotics, and movement. Not shame, but science. Number 1. Struggling with incontinence in public. Few changes steal dignity as deeply as losing control of the bladder or bowels in public. What often begins with small leaks while coughing or sneezing can evolve into urgent, unpredictable accidents. And for many seniors, it's not just a physical struggle, but an emotional one that carries shame and silence. The underlying science is clear. With age, the pelvic floor muscles, which support the bladder and rectum, lose strength and coordination. The detrusor muscle, which contracts to release urine, becomes overactive or weak, while the bladder's elasticity decreases, meaning it holds less before signaling the urge to go. At the same time, nerve signaling between the brain and bladder slows down, especially in those with diabetes, stroke, or spinal changes. This delayed communication causes either urge incontinence, when the bladder empties too soon, or overflow incontinence, when it fails to empty completely. For men, prostate enlargement adds mechanical pressure on the urethra, while in women, postmenopausal estrogen loss thins the urethral lining, reducing control. Certain medications, such as diuretics, sedatives, and blood pressure drugs, can worsen the problem by either increasing urine output or dulling bladder awareness. According to the National Association for Continence, over 50% of women and 25% of men over 65 live with some form of incontinence. Yet fewer than 1/3 ever discuss it with a doctor. Shame often keeps them silent, leading to dehydration, urinary tract infections, and social withdrawal. A vivid example. 72-year-old Helen once described the moment she felt warmth down her leg while shopping, leaving her cart and pride behind. It wasn't simply a medical incident. It was a loss of control that shook her confidence. But here's the hopeful truth. Incontinence is treatable. Pelvic floor exercises, bladder training, medication, and even simple lifestyle adjustments like reducing caffeine or managing fluid timing can make profound differences. Newer treatments, such as electrical stimulation therapy, help retrain bladder nerves to restore control. Ignoring it out of embarrassment allows it to worsen, but confronting it with knowledge and compassion helps restore dignity, mobility, and confidence. Because independence isn't just about walking unaided. It's about trusting your body again. Aging is not merely about wrinkles or gray hair. It's about the subtle biological changes that ripple through digestion, muscle tone, bladder control, and even personality. Each of these 12 signs is a biological story written in real time. A story of cells slowing down, hormones shifting, and neurons rewiring. But here's the hopeful message. Awareness gives power. When families notice the early signs and respond with empathy instead of judgment, dignity and independence can be preserved far longer. Science shows that lifestyle, nutrition, and emotional support can slow many of these changes. Meaning aging doesn't have to mean decline. It can mean adaptation and grace. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these changes in yourself, a parent, or someone you care about? Share your experience in the comments below. You never know. Your story might give another family hope tonight. If this video opened your eyes, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with others. The more we talk openly about aging, the more power we have to replace shame with understanding. Together, we're building a community that faces aging not with fear, but with compassion, science, and truth. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.